Hi guys, it's Sam and I'm back with another video for Lawn Fun. Today I started with a helper. It is my cat Sedona and she did not want to move from my desk. Anyway, the stamp sets I used are Fly High, Virtual Friends Add-on, Dandy Day, Superstar, Love Poems, Bubbles of Joy, the Stripes and Sprinkles 6x6 paper pad. I don't actually use the cloud background stencils, but I do use the shadow box card dies. And now we can jump into coloring. As always, I started by spritzing some water onto my craft net where I'm coloring and getting my water brush damp with the water. Then I usually use my middle tone to start and color in a little bit, then use my water brush to pull out the color. Then while it's still kind of damp, I use the darkest shade of the trio. Then I use the middle shade again, and I either use my water brush to pull out the final color or a third lighter color to pull it out. And the effects are basically the same. I switch it up a little bit for all the mice, whether I use a water brush or a third beige color, but they all basically look the same. As you can see, because I colored a million of them, I tried so hard to plan appropriately, but I do end up with a couple images that don't make it to the final card. But as you know, I keep all of my images that I don't color for future cards. That way, if I know I'm going to use some mice, I already have some colored and it saves time and it's just cute. They're just cute, right? I end up coloring the little tummies of the mice, excuse me, just the mid-brown color and pull it out with the water brush. Super simple coloring, but really with these small images, the cuteness is already done for you by Lawn Fawn. You can't go wrong. You can color them pink and purple and they still would be adorable. So that's the good news about these cute little mice. I am going to make a shadow box card, as we already guessed, and I need a lot of these little mice to go inside, outside, and all around. I color all of their ears with 2 shades of pink, and then, of course, they have to have pink cheeks, all of them. So I also use the same colors I use for the ears for the little blush areas of the cheeks. Then I'm going to move on to coloring the clouds, and all of these clouds are colored the same way. I originally was going to use 2 different shades of a gray marker, but instead, I went with just the darker shade, put it where I wanted the darkest parts of my image, and then I used my water brush to pull it out. Again, my water brush is just damp. It's not soaking wet. If it was too wet, the coloring would bloom much too much. So just a little bit of dampness to pull the image out. Then I use the same dark marker in the same spots and then pull it out again to build up the coloring and the layers of the colors to add that little bit of, shadow and dimension. Clouds are super easy because they can be imperfect. And since I'm using Zig Clean Color Real brush markers and they're water-based, basically my images are going to look watercolory anyway. So clouds, they're the way to go. They're not going to look wrong. Next, I was debating if I was actually going to go through with it and color these banners and the hot air balloons in rainbow. I know that is a predictable, automatic thing that I'm going to do. If you've seen my videos before, it is very hard for me not to color something rainbow. They're just so happy and cheerful, and I just couldn't resist it. So I thought about coloring them all one color, but I did in the end choose rainbow. So the far left panel of the hot air balloon is going to be red. For my reds, I like to use a dark brown for the shaded areas, which coincidentally is the same dark brown I use for the mice. And then I use my carmine red, which is a very pinkish red, and then I use a orangey color as the middle color. And then once those are all brought together with some water, they make a really nice shade of red, not too pink and not too fire engine. For the next panel, of course, orange. I have just 2 markers I use for these, and it works really well. For yellow, I also use a light brown for the shaded part of the yellow, just to add a little bit of extra depth. And for the green, I didn't want it to be too citrusy green, so I'm using a teal, a light blue, and a mint color to create my green panel. And then I'm using the same teal and the same light blue, but with also a darker blue for my shaded area to create the last panel and the last flag in the banner. And I love what a bright, happy rainbow it makes. I thought about doing purple for the little ribbon at the bottom, but I ended up going pink. And there you have it. I die cut my pieces from the Shadow Box card die set. The hills that I'm ink blending now with Distress Inks in Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn were die cut with 80-pound white cardstock from Lawnfawn, and the major panels of the Shadow Box were with the blue sprinkles part. Well, it's blue, but it's more like a tealy blue. Sprinkles part from the 6x6 paper pad. And I'm going to use peacock feathers and salvaged patina to add just a little bit of distress ink even to the pattern paper, which is one of my favorite things to do with pattern paper because, I mean, I love distress inks. So adding them to the pattern paper, I think just adds an extra element of surprise and separates it from, maybe another card made with that. I use the large square panel to die cut the front of my Shadow Box card. And now we are going to put it together. I'm using my bone folder to fold along all the scored lines that are shown, I guess, when you die cut your panels. Both edges of the hills and, of course, both edges of the Shadow Box panels themselves. And then I'm going to use some really thin tape from Lawnfawn to put onto all the edges of my die cut pieces. So I have it on the 2 edges of the actual Shadow Box card, and I'm just going to line up my Shadow Box card so that the bottoms match perfectly and they are completely aligned. Then I'm going to peel off, after I struggle, I'm going to peel off the liner paper of the tape, line up so that they're completely lined up straight at the bottom, and then just fold over that tab and rub it with my bone folder to make sure it is, it's not going anywhere. It's very strong tape, and see, it lines up perfectly. Then I am adding my tape to the panels of the hillsides that will be inside my Shadow Box. And once they are all ready to attach, I am going to make sure they are lined up as well with the bottom of my card, the bottom of the Shadow Box card, on the panel next to the opening. So here they are. There's a shorter one and a taller one. The shorter one is going to go in front, and I'm going to take off the release paper from both edges of the hillside. You can see I still have marker on my hand from coloring. I'm going to line it up with the bottom of my card so that it is perfectly straight. Use my bone folder to make sure it's really, stuck on there, not going anywhere. And I'm going to repeat the process with the shorter hillside, line it up along the bottom edge of that Shadow Box card, rub it down with my bone folder, and now I'm going to attach everything and make the Shadow Box card ready to decorate. I'm taking off the release paper from the other sides of the hills. I am folding down, I'm taking off the release paper of the last edge of the actual Shadow Box card itself, and I'm folding it all over like you would close a book. Everything, the little tab gets tucked under. I'm using my bone folder to rub it all together, and everything is stuck and perfectly ready for decoration. Which is so fun. I mean, I think this is one of the best things a recipient can receive because it's totally unexpected. Now I'm going to decorate all 4 sides and inside my shadow box card. And I'm gonna speed through it because you can decorate this any way you want and it will still be amazing. I am using acetate to attach the bigger balloon to the front smaller hill so that it looks like it's floating. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue on the acetate and hold it down. Make sure it gets really good, grippage. Then I'm just gonna trim the leftover acetate so it doesn't stick out the bottom. Next, I'm gonna use these clouds and put them all over because it is a beautiful sunny day for these guys to be out there in the hot air balloons. And once I am happy with that, I'm going to flip over and do the next side of my card. And for each side, I do at least one mouse and at least a cloud or something fun. So this mouse is kind of still looking at the scene, so he's kind of pointing over there. And I'm going to attach a couple clouds here. And then as you can see, it kind of goes over the edge. So I'm just using a little bit of glue to fold it back over because I like when things go off the edge for cards anyway, so why not do it for a few edges of the shadow box card. That banner is from the Virtual Friends add-on, and I thought it was the perfect complement to those rainbow balloons for the back. I just really liked how it popped against that pattern paper. And I thought the mouse laying on top of the hot air balloon was adorable. It totally cracks me up. And I can see that little mouse at the bottom pointing up like, does anyone else see what is going on? So that I'm doing the same thing with the cloud on the edge so that it goes on both sides. And then I'm attaching this last little cloud I had right above the other hot air balloon in the front. And I decide, I have one more banner. Can I put it anywhere? But nope, I'm calling it quits and taking a break. I'm not going to overload the card. So now I have to add my sentiment. And I decided to make this an encouragement card and a support card for a good friend. So I'm going to heat emboss the sentiment in white onto some black cardstock. I am using an embossing powder tool, to make sure none of the embossing powder sticks where I don't want it. And I'm adding the white embossing powder and I'm going to heat set it to dry. Well, to dry, to stick, to finish. I'm not sure what the correct term is exactly. I'm going to heat set it with my heat tool, which doesn't reach into the camera space, unfortunately. And next step is to decide where it's going to go on my card. I thought about putting it in the front, and it probably would have looked really good over that little hill, but I end up putting it on the back, and I think it looks great, and it's perfect. It looks like the mouse is pointing at the sentiment. And that's the card. The card is finished. I love, love, love the dimension. I love how each side is decorated a little bit with a cute little mouse and a sweet little scene. And this might be my favorite of that side. Of course, the mouse on the balloon and then this sweet little free floating hot air balloon in the front. I hope that you've enjoyed watching me make this card, and I can't wait to see what you create with the new images from this newest release. Be sure to check out the card on the lawnfawn blog, and thanks again. Bye!